welcome to Inside Real Estate with real estate expert Terry Paranych. I'm your host, Michael Kryton. And a really touchy subject. This is where marriages get broken, friendships go awry, fights happen on the doorstep. Planning on building a new home. It's a big task. When is building the right choice and steps to choosing the right builder? We're going to examine that surgically in this episode. Matter of fact, let's start with, we have a question from the Facebook fan page, so it's a good place to start. Terry Paranych Team, and it was David with this question. My wife and I have 2 kids and another one coming. We need some more space and have been looking on your website, but my wife really likes the idea of new. When does it make sense to build a new home, and how do you know if you have a good builder or not? So there's quite a few questions there. So maybe we start.
That's a great question.
When does it make sense to build a new home?
Well, when does it make sense to? Well, I mean, right now is a great time because, of course, building costs are lower than they were per se, let's say in 2007. Is there ever a wrong time to build a new home? I don't think so. I mean, it all comes down to your family situation or family dynamic, David. So I don't think there's ever a bad time. When the market is, let's say, very, very, if the market's not great, David, you're going to get a great deal on a new home because the builders are offering several different incentives, throwing things in, whether they're appliance packages or furniture packages, and selling at a much lesser margin than per se they would. But as far as identifying, how do you choose the right builder? How do you choose the right subdivision? Well, here's something that is maybe a bit of a secret to many of our loyal watchers out there. A lot of the time, you'll drive into a subdivision. And you'll go, you'll say to your wife or your husband, honey, I really like this subdivision. And, when you're looking at subdivisions, and you have to look at, again, your family dynamic, schooling, whether are your kids going to be going, to the elementary school in the area? Is it Catholic or Protestant? The junior highs, bus services, amenities, shopping. I mean, there are some subdivisions right now in Edmonton, I know, that are so far out there, there's not even a local convenience store to get a quart of milk. Right. But these are the first things that you'll kind of look at. But let's assume you've now found a subdivision that you really like. Well, once you get into that subdivision, usually there's going to be what's called a home parade or a show home parade. Right. And you're going to go, well, wait a minute, there's builder A, builder B, builder C, and builder D. But we had actually met a builder at a weekend before, at a weekend subdivision tour, and we really like that home builder, but how come they're not in this subdivision? Right. Well, there are 2 types of subdivisions, and one is called an open subdivision, where any builder can come in, buy lots from the developer. The developer will have often sometimes a detailed or not so detailed architectural control or architectural guideline as to the size of home you can build, the style of home, the type of landscaping, etc. And you'll find all kinds of home builders, to your first-time home builder, to your kind of a novice home builder, your seasoned veteran home builder, Michael, that builds lots of homes, or what I call your spec home builder, one that actually never opens a show home. They just go out and build houses in these open subdivisions and finish them off and hope somebody comes and buys them. Right. A closed subdivision is usually one where there's often a bidding process, or very reputable builders that have been around for many years, have good reputations, are chosen to be part of the subdivisions. The subdivision may only have 175 lots. It's developed by a great development company, and it may have some like great tree amenities, or a creek, or a little lake, or whatever it may be. And those are closed subdivisions. So your choices are one of those 4 builders or 5 builders that's on a show home parade. But what I always recommend to people is look at the show homes, look at the quality, and compare apples to apples from a pricing standpoint. Right. Because often one builder may have a different spec package than the other builder, and the price is a little bit different, but you may look at it and go, well, they look similar, but one is $15,000 more for the same, ultimately kind of the same looking house, but the specifications in the one house are far greater. The other thing that you have to look at is their track record. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer, my wife and I, and of course 2 kids, recently built a beautiful new home, and we interviewed a few builders to build our home, and we'll get into that as we go. But the reputation that our home builder had was outstanding.
Right.
We spoke to people who built with that builder, and I don't mind mentioning their names, Burkholz Homes, and I'm very, very thankful. They've been around since 1968, and a wonderful family company. It's now run by Kevin Burkholz, fine builder, second generation. But they delivered on what they promised. We had very few issues. They did an amazing job. But we also talked to another home builder prior to that. And when we were making our selection, and this was a custom home for any of you building a custom home, when we asked for specific details, there were certain features that we wanted in the home, and my wife had asked for pricing. And, Burkholz came right out and gave us a list of pricing, exactly what it was going to cost, where the other builder handed us a piece of paper, even though they're a higher-end builder, and said, oh, don't worry, you're going to spend a lot more than that. And that didn't go over very well with my wife, even though they're a great builder, and they do a great job. I'm not going to mention their name. They're an excellent builder. But, my wife is a person that likes the detail, and Burkholz provided a binder with all of the information, all of the pricing, all of the requests that she had, and they did it literally on 4 days' notice. And this is a big house that we built. So, and then, of course, we looked at and talked to their past customers and said, what was your experience like? How long did it take? What were their team members like to deal with? Our site superintendent and his assistant were absolutely unbelievable. Great communicators, were always there. We could call the office, have our problem solved. So we made a good choice. But on the other hand, being in real estate for 20 years, over 20 years, I know of several people have made similar decisions with other builders and had nightmarish situations. Yeah. So we need to discuss why these things happen. But the truth is, don't buy a brand new home by walking into a show home and buy it based on emotion. And this is often what happens. They'll walk in, they get emotional, they make a deal, but then they don't do the homework. And I have a client right now that we just recently sold their home, and they're building a home through a company, not a local company. Not saying a not local company is a bad thing, but they're having all kinds of problems. But they didn't do any market research. And now they've done some market research once they've been paying for their new home to be built, and found out that this builder doesn't have a great reputation. So ask the builder for references. Absolutely critical. Ask that home builder for references. Just like if you're going to list your existing pre-sale home, ask the real estate agent for references. Who can I contact who's used your services in the past?
I'm talking to real estate expert Terry Paranych. Inside Real Estate is the program. We're talking about building a new home. Of course, you have a company, Plex Developments. You do infill residential as well. I've got a lot of experience.
And that's a specialized company. Yes.
So you're definitely an expert. You've been around the bush several times on building a new home. Maybe you can tell me, what are the pitfalls? What are the kinds of things that typically go wrong?
Communication. If you're building now if you buy a spec home, like, Plex, most of the homes we sell are homes that are constructed in residential infill-based neighborhoods, established neighborhoods with quiet tree-lined streets. We will build a house, and that home is 100% ready when you move in. And, you always have your deficiencies, throughout the first year, and, little things go wrong, but people understand those things are going to happen. And if you have a great group of trades, which are all part of your brand and your team, where those trades will come back and make those repairs, 99% of the time, there's no challenge. But the challenges run in is when you find a home builder and they don't have a customer service infrastructure. Hey, you may get this home and you move in, and all of a sudden a toilet's not working, or something's not working, and we had a couple of minor incidents with our home, but we called the builder, and the specialist of that trade was there like within minutes. It was so impressive. But if that builder doesn't have a customer service infrastructure, and let's say you choose a builder who's all by him or herself, okay? Right. And let's say that person is a one-man show. Well, you need to ask that person, if I have a problem, can I call you? And when can I call you? And are you available? Where all of a sudden, if you're getting a voicemail all day long and you're frustrated. But what often builders will do is they'll have a list of trades that have worked on your home, such as the plumber, the electrician, the painter. Again, some of the most important components where the appliances were purchased. But let's just talk about plumbing and electricity. Okay. Where you need to call the plumber. Well, the plumber knows that you're a customer of this particular home building company, and if it's urgent, they come out right away. Perhaps if it's not urgent, they book an appointment. But this is all set up through warranty programs now, Michael. But when selecting a builder, it is so crucial to know what happens when we're in the house. What happens when we take possession of the house? What if I have a problem? How do you handle the problem? And that is a key question, and I urge everybody to ask that question. And I know we've been in our new home since March, and sure, there's been a few things that come up, but we don't sweat it, because the predictable behavior that the builder said that would happen has happened. And I'm telling everybody about Burkholz and what a great job they've done for us.
If you're going to make a promise, you got to deliver on it.
Absolutely. If
you're planning on building a home, then you can contact Terry Paranych and his team directly if you want to get some more information. 780-457-4777. You can also post a question on the Facebook fan page at Terry Paranych Team. You can also go to the website, www.paranych.com. I think this is something a lot of people wonders. Can you negotiate with a builder?
Yes, you can negotiate with a builder. I mean, if you walk into a spec home, there's a pre-build and a spec home.
Right.
So a spec home is a house, as we mentioned, that's already finished. It may be furnished and staged or may not, but it's ready to go, and you can take possession of it in 30 days or 15 days. If that house may be on the market for, let's say, $600,000, and you may make an offer of $575,000 or $580,000. There's usually not a lot of room, and we have to remember, and I want to talk to the consumers. We have to remember the builder is not building houses to not make a profit. Usually the builders have a certain profit that they want to achieve, and they're prepared to be flexible a little bit. But I think if you're going out there thinking, well, I'm going to just try to make a great deal and have a real grinding contract with a builder, it's not going to happen. And often the builder will accept the price and then maybe offer to do some sod, or maybe landscaping's not included, and they're going to include the landscaping, or perhaps have a professional fence built for you. Some of those things get thrown in, but usually there's a little bit of room. But if you're building a pre-built home, that means you are pre-selecting what you're going to have. And usually what the builder will do is the builder will get their cost, they'll put their markup on it, and that's where you're at. And usually when you're building a house too, there's other things that you see at the local home shows, or the different suppliers that you'll go to, and you'll have to go to the builder and say, I want to make a change. And some builders will charge you for change orders. So every time you make a change, they're charging you an administration fee of maybe a couple $100, whatever it may be, because they now have to change the process.
Right.
They have to go back to their trade. And I want to remind people that does cost money, because sometimes people go, I can't believe, they charged me an extra $3,000 over the process of building my home to make these changes. But somebody has to administer the change.
Yes.
And so those costs are well worth it. And but again, when looking to build a new home, identify, number one, where you want to be.
Right.
Number two, your budget. Identify your budget. Get pre-approved from your financial institution. Talk to a mortgage broker or go to your own bank. And then, sit down with the different builders. Find out how long they've been in business. And, I even know a few years ago, one of the major builders here in Edmonton had some major challenges because they just couldn't build the houses. There weren't enough trades when the market was crazy, and they get ahead of themselves and they run into trouble. So, you really just I always say, just take it easy. Mm-hmm. You know what? Don't make an emotional decision. You know what? It doesn't have to be made overnight.
Right.
Interview 3 or 4 builders in the subdivision that you have ultimately chosen. Talk to those builders, and then go with who you feel comfortable with. But even if you feel very comfortable with a particular builder, ask for references. Mm-hmm. Ask to speak to past customers, and ask them questions such as, how long did it take to build your home? Mm-hmm. What was the process like? How did they communicate while you were building the home? What was the site superintendent like? What were the office staff like?
Right.
what was it like after you moved into the home? If you had a problem, did they come and take care of it right away? Ask these 4 or 5 questions, and you'll get honest answers from people, because when building a new house, it's very emotional, and people are right away willing to say either great things or not so great things.
Or not so great things, exactly.
Right.
And what do they say? A person who has a good experience will tell 3. Someone who has a bad experience will tell 12.
That's right.
And just the nature of the beast. We've been talking about the ins and outs of building a home, when is building the right choice, and steps to choosing the right builder with real estate expert Terry Paranych. And you can reach him to ask him more questions if you like. A couple of ways: by phone at 780-457-4777, or you can reach out to him on his Facebook fan page at Terry Paranych Team. You can also check out the website www.paranych.com. You've been watching Inside Real Estate with Terry Paranych. I'm your host, Michael Kryton.